The project manager role is to make sure that the strategic ideas or the planning for long term becomes actionable right now, like itself. And you ensure that the project aligns with the organization priorities and strategy. I would say the project manager has to be proactive because not everybody will come to you with information. So you have to be thinking that there is a strategy for the company, and you have to ask questions because at the beginning, you're going to evaluate your positive and negative risks. You have to see what can I use and what can I watch out for as an emerging project manager or as a project management consultant to become strategic level partner of the client. You will not be fully involved in operation part of the project, but mostly program or portfolio management. And there you're really jumping and moving to the next level where the organization sees you at the table of strategic planning, and then you can see different programs, different portfolios of the organization.
If you've been finding it challenging to align your projects with organizational strategy and drive impactful business outcomes, this interview is designed for you. We'll tackle critical questions that reveal why project managers are playing an increasingly pivotal role in strategic planning and how this involvement enhances value. These insights will be transformative for professionals striving to bridge the gap between execution and strategy at the project, program, and portfolio levels. Our guest today is a visionary leader dedicated to empowering businesses through strategic insights, actionable recommendations. He is the driving force behind G Group Solutions, based in Antwerp, Belgium, specializing in helping managers and organizations achieve success through effective project management. His expertise includes providing strategic guidance. He does conduct workshops, trainings to ensure organizations maintain control over their projects, delivering meaningful and measurable results. So welcome to the Life and IT Project Management YouTube channel, where we connect life and IT project management with practical, relatable content for aspiring and experienced project managers alike. This interview is the second installment in our three-part series. The title of the series placeholder is The Emerging Project Manager's Playbook. The Emerging Project Manager's Playbook. In our first interview, we explored what a project manager does. In this second interview, we want to explore why project managers are increasingly involved in strategic planning. I will hold off on letting you guys know what the third title is, but for today, please join me again in giving a warm welcome to Gregor Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Justice. A very great introduction, as always. And I have to say, I thank you also for spreading the word and making this content available for your audience, but also for other project managers and mostly the emerging project managers in the world.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. As you know, I'll dive right into the questions. Now, the first one I have been a proxy for aspiring project managers. So the first question they have is, what does strategic planning entail in the context of project management?
First of all, the word of strategic planning, for some people, it's a bit confusing because normally strategy is already a planning. It's planning for a long period of time, but strategic planning that comes back as a word mostly in the high level of the company, where they will talk about organization long-term objectives. And as you know, for a project itself, if we make the connection, a project will help to start something that hopefully will bring long-term value for the organization and hopefully the users or the end users, receivers of the project product. Now, we heard about outcome, we heard about product. So at the end of the project, you get something, a result, a report, an outcome, something that is tangible or non-tangible, but at least it's at the end of the project. But this one will be working towards an objective of the organization or the group. So it's a long-term objective. And that's where strategic planning and project management involves that thinking with the long-term objective of the organizations. And then you are setting priorities. You are setting priorities to know, okay, when do you want to tackle them? So what do you want to see when project is launched? Like in most countries, we just had elections. So a campaign is a project. So at the turn of the campaign happens, what do you want to see for the first steps, the second steps, the third steps, and then hopefully the long term is to win the elections. And then you have also other things coming after. Those are the objectives. But hopefully that's what it is. For people that are around the world or sports fanatics, let's say that you have the match itself is a project once you win the match, but the long term is probably to win the competition. So you have to win every project, every match, and then you win the competition. So that's where you have to keep in mind that you really have to enclose the project itself and its result within the strategic planning. And that's where project management really comes into executing the everyday steps, like what you broke down into the project to achieve the long-term objectives.
Fantastic. Because I do know that several project managers don't get to see their projects that way. But essentially what we are saying is the project manager is supposed to come in to plug, basically to deliver the individual. In terms of football, the individual wins projects. Exactly. And those should roll up to the final outcome. So easily that leads me to the next question. So how do project managers' role align with that strategy, organization strategy?
The project manager role, and I would always say in combination to the sponsor, because the sponsor is someone hopefully in the organization that has a high level, having this open helicopter view on all the different strategic ideas that are booming in the boardroom. The project manager role is really to make sure that this concept, which is the strategic ideas or the planning for long term, becomes actionable right now, right there for the project itself. And you ensure that the project aligns with the organization priorities and also with the organization strategy. Did they decide to, like, let's say a new CFO comes and he has a new strategy in how the financials should go? What should be reported? Like, does he want to spend more on consultants or people inside? And all that has to play into like how you're going to use your resources, how you're going to see with your sponsor to say, okay, you know what, why we have to cut down on people from the outside, we have to get people from the inside. Now, do the people from the inside have the accurate training, the adequate training for what you want to use them? Can the consultant do it in 1 day and the people in 3 days? Or are you going to say, okay, we need to prolong our project because these people also have their jobs to do within the company? Are we taking people from the outside? Are we shortening and expending more? These are all coming into the idea of, as a project manager, you receive information from the people working on the strategy. You also plot your project and the actions that you're doing within the frame of the strategy that the company is trying to get aligned for or trying to look for.
Awesome. So basically, we've begun to talk about a project manager making sure that they work with the business sponsor to still deliver. So when you start talking about benefits realization, right, there's a clear line between what the project manager is doing and what, first of all, the business sponsor who would have curated the projects within a scope of items that roll up to organizational strategy. So they also have to be aware of that, not just be dictated to. So that leads me to the next question. How early should the project manager be involved in that strategic planning, just to make sure? You did mention that, yes, the project manager should engage with the strategy folks, and the strategy folks might also include the business sponsor or so forth. But how early should the project managers be involved in that alignment?
I would say the project manager has to be proactive because not everybody will come to you with information. So you have to be thinking that there is a strategy for the company, and you have to be proactive to ask questions, because at the beginning, you're going to evaluate your risk and positive and negative risk and opportunities, sometimes they call them. You have to see what can I use and what can I watch out for. We see it often in constructions. In constructions, the people know approximately when is construction vacation. Normally it's during the hot time of the summer. Why? Because there's a big risk that certain material that needs to dry, if it's too hot, they're going to crack like concrete. Or during winter time, very heavy, cold winter time or rainy time. So those are all risks for them that they are probably not happy for. They're going to try to advance their project for the strategy of the building or whatever it is for the organization. You want to make sure that when you come at that time, you can respond for the risk. And also, no action is a response. So I know that people think no action is not a response, but let's say it's raining and you decide not to do anything because you cannot do anything. That's also a kind of response. So you're responding to that. But if you're building a big place and you already could make the foundation, the side walls probably, and the roof, then you can work when it's raining. You can work when it's cold because you're inside. But you have to really plan within the strategy of what is looked for the organization. And I know I'm not giving a very concrete organization example. We can come into that later on. However, the more information you can get on understanding what is the outcome of your project and what is the strategy behind it, the more you can get involved and be proactive about what kind of things you have to look into in order to make sure that your project is addressed proactively, mostly with the risk, but also with the actions and the people that you will be involved with, like the one that we just talked about for the CFO coming. That could be also an HR manager who's hiring more people or more new people that has to be involved in your project, or more senior people who would like to be involved in your project. You have to know how you make the counterbalance with it.
Fantastic. So essentially, the benefits are numerous in making sure that there is proactive planning, early stakeholder identification, early, for example, especially when it comes to the financials, right? Early inputs, adequate, accurate inputs into financials, projected, then rolling down to, of course, early risk identification. You talked about seasons and all that, right? Knowing when to procure specific items, knowing when to build specific things, right? That also helps with the project management, especially in situations where some business sponsors might not be subject matter experts, right?
Yeah. Or might not be available all the time. And I have to say, you talk about IT for like you are in IT, you know how that works. A project for IT, you also keep your eyes in the news, like which is not even for your organization, but at least if a new technology is coming and that can help you to go further and faster. Let's say they got installed. I'm gonna give a very difficult project idea. Let's say you're working for an organization that has to have a very secure building, and it's so connected that even cellular connection cannot go outside. So you have to make sure that all your internet connection and your cellular connection goes through some kind of relay that goes inside. Now, is that relay 2G, 5G? Depends on that. But if you heard about a new technology that is, I don't know, 4G more stable than 5G for that kind of technology, you're aware of it. So you can be proactive to ask your team about that, because sometimes your team might also not be so proactive, or they might be so focused on what you gave them that they don't see also the bigger picture. And that's where you become a facilitator, but also a kind of satellite, gathering information to make sure that things goes along and be actionable for the most, as you just mentioned. So you have the cost, the time, and the quality for the better quality based on what you have as a budget and also the time you have.
Fantastic. All right. So we've spoken to the benefits, quote unquote, the benefits of involving project managers early. Now, what skills do project managers need to contribute to the planning itself?
Yes, I would say, first of all, if you're talking to the leaders, you have to get a good communication skill that is very concise, precise, and not wasting their time. You have to understand them. That means the stakeholder management is a skill that you have to have, because some companies, the leader may have time to look into all the details. As you said, there might be a subject matter expert. They want to see all the details to make the decisions. And some other ones is just give me the line or two decision making, or three, like, and then I will make my decision based on that. And others, it might be, okay, give me the front information that is very short. And if I need more, I can click through it, or I will ask you for it. So that's one of them. I would say that's stakeholders management. Then you have to get strategic thinking, because you're going to be thinking strategically. You might be in an organization where you're competing with other project managers for resources. Depends on what kind of organization it is. You might also be in an organization where resources are limited at this moment. Mostly in what the ones we know probably are government projects. You might be involved at the beginning of the year. There's a budget that is big. And then as we go, there are more regulations, there are more projects that have to come. So your budget is cramping all the time. So you have to make sure that you are securing enough in strategically thinking about the long-term organization goals, but the actions that are happening all the time within your organization. It's unfortunate for certain people, but you might also need to have a sense of the politics of the organization. So you have to get emotional IQ, but also you have to get an IQ based on what you're doing. And then analytical skills, because you're going to be talking to people doing the task, or operational people, most likely. And you have to be able to quickly evaluate the project feasibility, the ROI, the risk of what they are doing, the reports they are giving back to you, how quick you have to follow them and monitor. So it's kind of 5 major points. But it's really true that you're looking at the outside environment, the top level of the organization, what you're doing, and also the bottom level of your, like the team that you're working with.
Fantastic. the last sentence, the last statement you mentioned definitely covers. So you're looking at your team level. You ought to be aware of what their gaps are, capacity, competencies, availability, resource planning, and so forth. At the program or leadership level, you want to make sure that you have conducted an adequate analytical assessment to factor in or to plug in your needs or your program's needs into financial planning, so that as the enterprise, as other project managers compete with you for resources and so forth, you have pushed yours forward significantly to be considered, as well as you mentioned the bureaucracy, right? The politics, being sensitive to that, being emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent, and so forth. So thank you for all those. Now, we want to get to, now this part, I have personally witnessed that many program managers don't really bother, like in practice, certifications for many program managers and upwards, especially directors, is not a big thing. Competency is much more important. But I do, for the listeners, I need to ask this question. So are there certifications that focus on integrating, that are important, focusing on integrating strategy with project management practices?
Yes, I think it's very important. I think last time we talked about project managers, where a certification, you have to really look into your organization and all the roles. But as you go higher up for the way you're thinking strategically, it's more streamlined. And that, I would say, if you really want to go through that, a PMP or a Prince 2, because they are guides, can give you an idea of the base of the foundation. And if you want to go further and you're working with different projects in the same category, you can go up to the program management certification. That could be in Prince 2 or through PMI or through Scrum even. I think they have one, but they are more focused on the people side. That you have to keep in mind. You have the ITIL also that have one when you have different projects working, but it's also probably close to the SAFe, the Scale Agile framework that you can do also at the strategic level, where you really combine the networking of different projects for an organization. Your organization may prefer one of them, but I would say try to learn from all of them, because cross-learning will help you to innovate and find ways to be very, very quick in your feet when you have to go with the strategy, because strategy can be on the long-term thinking, but it can change really quick. We saw that very quick with a product that we had for technology. I think it was pretty much a short time. DVDs or DVRs or whatever it was, but the DVDs that you could record it on, it lasted maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't even think that thing jumped off, because streaming came after and it was over.
Right.
You really have to be understanding how does that frame enters within the strategy of the organization that I'm working with. And also what is going for the trend at the time. And you've seen a lot of companies struggling right now. I would say car companies, and car companies really struggle with two things: not being the first in the market. Tesla has been the first pushing. So I think now in the world, for the charging station, they pretty much own it. Both cars are also offering a kind of addition for your charging, so you can charge at chargers from Tesla. I think Europe tried to unify the way the charging cable looks like, and it's closer to the Tesla than to the other cars that came with their different cables. Apple had to flex themselves, even if they are big, to the USB-C. So you really have to understand strategically, how can something affect the strategy of my company for future products later, and how does that affect my project? Because your project might be affected by a change quickly, super quick. And say, start probably to get a sense of your project and few projects other project managers are working on by discussing with them and see how it works and how interconnected they are. Send program management, and then if you're in IT, for sure, SAFe or ITIL, because that really makes sense, goes a long way. And then if you go further, P5 Express is a bit more simplified, but it's on the portfolio side. And then you also have the PFMP, I think it's Portfolio Management Professional, PMI, that has also a big literature.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's great that you plugged the fact that you didn't say this directly, but I would interpret what you've said. So it's great that you plugged the fact that as two critical things, what the project manager should plug themselves into what is valuable or what the enterprise deems valuable from a scaled competency framework standpoint. That is one, regardless of whatever it is. That is far more important than anything out there. But depending on how mature the enterprise is in their delivery approaches, you can still benefit from minimalist frameworks out there that keep things concise and effective and efficient that project managers can basically learn anyway. So you did mention the P5 Express also. So that's very, very important. Thank you so much. Now, that definitely now leads me to tools and frameworks, which I expect would align with the skilled methodology of the enterprise. So, but what tools and frameworks will support or augment the processes that need to be embraced? So what tools and frameworks support project managers in aligning their projects to the strategic goals?
A quick one that you can do for sure is to look at the organization if you don't have great, clear support from what the organization sees where they are in the industry. You can definitely make a SWOT analysis. And with a quick survey, you try to see what are the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunity, and threats from the organization itself based on the project that you're doing. And that can be done through survey or through research, but I would say do both of them. So you have a balance of what are the research based on interviews for certain people, and then you go through the organization, mostly your team. And I'm sure like once you start a complaint meeting, don't go too far to it, but focus on the strength and the opportunities. The weakness and the threats will anyway come. People like to complain sometimes because they don't have that much time to probably express it. The other ones are, so you're probably going to look at a balance scorecard. You're going to link projects with how heavy they are on the weight from the strategy of the company. And that you can go by talking to your sponsor about different projects going around. If you have the chance to meet the directors or the
sponsors,
the directors of different departments, you can ask them what is going on in the department for more important, where is their focus laying at, what is asked for them. You also can meet different project managers from other projects. If you have other project managers from other projects, to see what is asked from them in order to compete in this environment, but also make sure the strategy is being met. There's something from Google mostly, but that is used, it's kind of KPIs, but it's called OKRs. OKRs is a bit more with approach on how do you make it actionable for the operations. KPIs might stay at the manager level, and then the manager has to translate or transform them themselves, but OKRs really goes at the operation level from strategy. And that you can find definitely objective key results, it's called. So that's definitely true. And then you can use different methods, depends on your project, if it's more towards the linear way or the agile way. And the agile way, probably we know about it because you might have a backlogs. And the backlogs, it's a backlog of things that needs to be done. And if you can prioritize them, you can definitely categorize them also. Categorize them into that framework, give me an idea of what is really important, but where they are laying at. I talk about the building, for example. If you're building a secure building for a defense ministry of an organization or a country that needs very good protection and all these things.
Physical security, enhanced physical security, yes.
Yeah. So if you need networking, communication, and security, gonna be definitely top of your priority for that, for sure. And then you have the communication becomes one, and PMIS, project management information system, the way you're organizing your information. And that's probably linked into, it's not a framework, but you're going to probably use different framework for your stakeholder management. Find the one that works best and quick, because communication, better over communicate clearly than under communicate badly. You have to combine both, but you have to make sure it happens. And then you can use different agile framework because your project will change anytime. And if you go for strategy, SAFe is always to see how that can be. Scrum for people side related, P3 Express, micro P3 Express also depends on how big your project is. PMI has different sections that you can plot out and see how agile it is. Mostly these days they're trying to talk a little bit more about agile. And Prince 2 is more for government, but they also have their how you can be agile within an organization like a government organization. And that helps you with planning and prioritizing.
That was definitely awesome. So you started with the frameworks, how to think about problem sets, how to think about how your enterprise aligns with, okay, what's going on out there, and picks their strategic strength, focusing on the strength and what they can do based on capacity, competency, and all that, and leveraging. So from SWOT to different frameworks, then all the way down to OKRs, right? What is being done at the team level to make sure that those roll up. So from a framework standpoint, you spoke to that. Then you went to the tool standpoint where how to plan, starting with how to plan, then what tools to use to plan. Then also communication. You spoke to whatever PMIS system is basically leveraged by the enterprise to ensure that communication is conducted effectively and efficiently. All those are very, very, very key solid points that I know that so many listening will benefit from. So thank you so much for detailing those. Now I'll go to the next question. So what role does collaboration with senior leadership? So we talked about specifically, we've been mentioning one specific role, which is the business sponsor, quite a lot. But does that really expand? So what does collaboration with senior leadership play in achieving excellence in strategy-driven project management?
Working with senior leadership and also the senior leadership themselves, like supportive role is very important for the project. On your side as a project manager, but also on the other side, the senior leadership. So it's a good that the senior leadership have a supportive role for the project so they know what's going on within the organization, how much money is being spent. That's usually what I tell them because they sometimes think, this project is going on, but I'm not sure. And I'm just saying, like, don't you know how much it costs? And if it's 300,000 per day, then
it's something.
I should ask. Then they go ask and they start caring about projects. Then you have the relationship the project manager has with senior leadership is also to inform them and help them to go with their decision making. If you can do that, and you become a trusted advisor, it becomes really excellent. And be consistent in what you're providing. Even if you make mistakes, everybody understands mistakes. It's just you have to be consistent in providing great information for them to make decisions. These days, what is tricky is you also have an industry called the management consultants. And a lot of leaders or senior leaders confuse the role of project manager and the role of a management consultant. And sometimes they require from the project manager to be a management consultant and also a project manager at the same time. Consultants scrap and don't touch the operational part. They don't touch the actionable part. I would say 99.9% of the time. I would not say they don't, but most likely they will not because it's not part of their core mission. You as a project manager, you have to watch out that you don't show yourself as a full management consultant because that requires a lot of knowledge, industry knowledge, skills, and research, and you're competing with another level of people. However, the information you're providing is important for them to know if they're going to hire someone further to look into that, or if they're going to see if the project going to go on or not, or if the project is important on the balance or not, or how they're going to communicate with you. Then you have to go back to make sure as a collaborator that you can allow them for the major decision making. And for them, as I just mentioned, it's an organization needs money. So money would be important. The cost, the budget. How is that going on for this project? How is that going on for this project in relation to other projects that came from this project or that are related to it? The second one is resource. How many people are being involved in this project? Are the outside consultant costing me $1,000 per day, per person? Or is it my employees that I already have and that have some spare time to work on this project and would like to grow also? Because people that get into a project would like to grow. And then the third one is quality. How is that the project itself, when it's done with the quality that we have, help us to go further? For that one, I would like to give an example. I think last time, and that's one of the examples we have, organizations with COVID have decided also to change buildings. Less people are coming from the buildings. We don't need a big building anymore. We need to be closer. Let's say the airport, for example, you're shipping products to clients. And because you were far away, FedEx or UPS or all these transport services were coming around 2 p.m., but you don't have that many people in the office. You want to process until 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and to be closer to the airport, that's good. The driver's coming back. You'll be the last client. They pick up things. That's all in your strategy to see, okay, can you deliver more? Is there more revenue? Are you processing faster? Is your turnover way faster? Are your people working better? Are more people coming to the office? Or people decided to leave the company because it's too far from their house? Then the building itself, you're closer to the airport, is the noise annoying? All that comes into your project to make sure that is relevant for the project itself. And if the project is stopped, that could be that the organization say, you know what, maybe we should ask the customer to order 2 days in advance. We're still going to stay where we are, and we're going to expand to what we are to do. We will rent the 2 or 3 floors that we have on top, so other organization. So all of that will come in the strategy while the project is being thought about before it's even launched. So you become a very good partner in terms of the feedback that you're giving to the organization or to the senior leadership to understand what are the dynamic of the project itself.
Fantastic, fantastic. So the beautiful thing is, and this is for project managers out there, even for aspiring project managers, after you've crossed the first hurdle of getting in and just doing what you've been told to do, the next level really is becoming that strategic, trusted advisor, because you are not a management consultant to your point, but since you will be accountable for the project, right, you need to be able to, as early as possible, as respectful as possible, you need to be able to provide your facts and the reasoning behind them. And if you have numbers, you're analytical, if you have numbers to showcase, those will factor into the decision making. So to see you in that light as a strategic driver of value, not just a project manager. So thank you so much for explaining all that using a use case. So that easily leads me to the last question, which is, so what do you see changing in the future for project managers by way of their involvement in strategic planning at the program and portfolio level? Do you see anything change, especially with the advent of AI? Do you see anything changing?
For sure, more organizations are going to use AI to review their data. So what's going to change is how relevant and how relevant is the data itself, either clean or recent, or how relevant is data for the decision making, because decision making is why data AI is being used, because they want to make a decision based on facts, process the information faster, but also make sure that they can make the decision also faster to stay competitive, as you say. The other one is better prioritization of initiatives based on strategic value. And that will, I think, stay a skill of the project manager until right now, because you are the center of making sure that things are broken down into manageable pieces for projects to become projects, but also to prioritize. And the prioritization will be made based on information that you get, and use the skill of any resource as like any resources, and respectfully, as you say, Justice, used by the organization based on the cost, the value, the budget, to make that decision. And that will be important to also clearly define what's the role of a project manager, because as a project manager, I'm taking all this information, digesting it quickly, and making sure that the technology I have and like is beneficial for you, client or employer. But at the same time, I am not tangling myself too much with your strategy, because you still have the decision-making part based on more information that you have and the vision that you have. Now, if your intention as an emerging project manager or as a project management consultant to become a strategic level partner of the client, and that definitely can be, I would recommend that you also make clear to them that you will not be fully involved in operation part of the project, but mostly probably with program management or portfolio management. And there you're really jumping and moving to the next level, where the organization sees you at the table of strategic planning or strategy reformation or reframing. And then you can see different programs, different portfolios of things going on within the organization. That requires also a different set of skills. However, as you grow from project manager to that position, that also gives you the skill of understanding how complex projects can be for an organization and turn that complex into simple terms. Because in strategy, as I said, for the top leaders, the simpler it is, the clearer and the simpler it is, the better it is for them to quickly make decisions. Then the other ones that is very important that will stay for project manager is this like very strong feedback loop between execution teams and leadership teams to adapt their strategy. And that will be based on the actions that are happening on the floor. Your communication has to be good. Your listening has to be good. I think communication is probably, as someone said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. In a room with leaders, most likely you're going to be listening and guiding them to make sure that you understand them and they understand you. And then from there, you can jump with the relationship from what did you receive as data, what's going on, and where did we want to go. so you make the scope clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There was an interview I had with, was it, no, it was with Stuart. So Stuart was saying that AI would replace jobs, but project management is a transferable skill. And still using the analogy of, individuals saying that this AI cannot be built to handle stakeholder management. And his argument is that for the fact that AI is factored into products, solving for intimate relationships now, and there's a lot of budget going into that, that there's a short distance between an AI agent meeting personalized whatever needs to solving stakeholder. So the beautiful thing about your feedback was the fact that you didn't even talk about stakeholder management. You focused on a project manager steps in, recognizes what the need is, whether it's a project level need or a strategy, program, portfolio level need, what the opportunities are. That's one. Then number two, starting with the quality and recency of data information for the relevance, right? Then being able to listen more, to be able to provide quality feedback where required, to serve as inputs to the decisions that need to be made by leaders, right? Who will be responsible for initiative prioritization ultimately, right? You now being a strategic back to trusted partner, yes, knowing how to leverage information, at least recent information, so that that guides their direction. Thank you so much for this. This definitely was, I think, detailed. It was very detailed. It was good. Of course, if anyone in the audience wants to get into very specific knowledge areas or specific school of thoughts, definitely they can reach out to Gregor. And that leads me to the last question, which I asked the last episode. So, do you have any product, service, or workshop coming up shortly that should interest the audience?
For me, no. But every month I do post on my website, and you'll probably put my website and your links down in the text. There's a book review, so you will read a review about a book that we read and how beneficial it is for project manager and how you can use it yourself or learn about the book. The other one is my webinars, and I'm starting to work on the different subjects and how it's going to be. Probably 3 webinars will be mid-year. So keep an eye on the website and what I will be posting on LinkedIn. And then from there, you can find when the webinars are starting.
Okay, all right. So if you have enjoyed this episode, share what resonated with you most. We value your feedback because your success as a project manager matters to us and to the world. We want you to excel. So don't miss the next video. So this is a 3-part installment. If this is the first video you saw, just go to the first one. So please watch that as well. And remember, every man is the architect of his fortunes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.